Welcome everyone in this Cybersecurity Foundation course by InfosecTrain. My name is Amit Pandey, right? And we are currently in the fourth domain, which is about cybersecurity, you know, about the cloud basics, right? So these are the topics that we are going to discuss today. We are going to talk about virtualization in cloud. We are going to going to talk about hypervisor, different type of hypervisor. We are going to talk about, okay, we are going to talk about Dockers and containers, cloud service providers, right? Type of services, provided by the cloud. So we are going to talk about each and every one of it, right? So virtualization, is a technology that enables, right? That enables multiple virtual instances of hardware or software to, run on a single piece of machine. What it means, let me tell you within an example. So what really happens is that, for example, there is a you have like 5 PCs, okay? Like you are a pen tester or somebody, or you need 5 different operating systems for work upon, right? You need So like for example, you have 5 different operating system, right? And you need that 5 different operating system. In some you have Ubuntu, in one you have Linux, in one you have Windows XP, and one you have Windows 10, right? So what is the thing? Definitely like you are want to practice or you want to teach somebody how to hack into one system. So you're using one operating system, one particular laptop, and through that particular laptop or one operating system, you are trying to access or hack into another machine, right? Or your another laptop. So the thing here is that laptop in place for that, right? And you, for that particular laptop, you want to hack into another laptop which you are having, right? So in order to have, practice on all this and teach these things, you have to maintain multiple machines, right? Take care of this multiple machines as well, right? You have to take care of their Linux systems, of your Windows XP, right? All of these things is that if you do this kind of things, it would be an utter chaos, right? Managing so many of your devices for for your particular education or for your teaching, right? It's a completely an headache. So what can happen here is that you can go for something which is called the virtualization. So what really happens in virtualization is that you have a single piece of a machine, okay? In that particular single piece of a machine, you have different kind of operating systems installed, right? Just let me draw it first, and this, yeah, see, right? Instead of having one is related to the Linux, right? If you're not familiar with the Linux is a kind of an operating system, same like the iOS and the Windows and Android, okay? Linux is also this. So this is the Linux and this is your Windows, this is your, OS, iOS, okay? This is your iOS, and this is, let's say, your Android, okay? So instead of having 4 different devices and you need to take care of them 4 different devices, what you are doing is that you are having a particular machine, this particular machine, this box that I'm showing you, inside that particular box, you have 4 different operating system, right? It is quite easier as, to handle it, to maintain it, right? And if some issues arises, you can easily handle it, right? So we have 4 different operating system here inside single machine. It's quite easy for you to handle it. If there is an issue, you can, rectify it. You can easily remove it, right? And install a new operating system there, right? Without any chaos, right? So this is the power of what we call as the virtualization. As you go by the definition, it is written there that virtualization is a technology that enables multiple virtual instances, right? It kind of enables multiple virtual instances of your hardware software to run on a single physical machine. So mean that multiple virtual instances, it means multiple operating systems or hardware software, you only need one physical machine, right? That's it. And what you can do is that you can install that multiple operating system inside that particular machine and you can use it. So instead of having 5 different laptops for my particular purpose, one for my Ubuntu, one for, testing in my Android and all this kind of thing, what I can do, I can install a software, and inside that software, I can install the software in this particular machine from which I'm taking the session, right? I will be, there is multiple softwares are present in the market. So you will be installing the software in this particular machine or your respective machines, right? VMware is just an example of it. If you are not familiar with it, I'm going to show you that as well. So VMware is a thing. So what you will do, you will install the VMware virtual machine. Okay, it's kind of a virtual machine. You will be installing into your respective PC. And in that particular VMware, what you will do is that you will be installing multiple operating system, right? Okay, and then you can play or do whatever you want to do with that. And this is how virtualization really works, right? This it how it looks like now. And see, it's really saying virtualization allows for creation of virtual infrastructure that can be used to deliver resources such as computing power, storage, and networking. So all of that particular operating system, right, which are present inside that particular you know their software, right, they act separately. Remember this thing, right? They are not combining, they will be separate entity. So if like there are 5 virtual machines, 5 operating system I have in that particular software, one is Linux, one is iOS, one is Android, one is Ubuntu, one is Kali, right? I can have the power of 5 operating system in one software. If I summarize you what the virtualization is, that it is like having a 5 or 6 or how many operating system you want, 5 operating system in one software, right? That's it. And these software are complete, a separate entity. They are not mixed, right? So for the anything you do in your Linux would not be leaking out and going to your Windows operating systems. No, it will not, right? That's the beauty of this thing. Okay, again, it's vary from vendor to vendor which kind of software you're using. I will be showing an example of something which is called the VMware. Okay, you have to pay for this particular thing. It will not be free of cost, right? But this is a kind of thing, right? This is kind of your virtualization. So give me a minute and let me start my VMware and let me show you how it looks like, right? This is how the virtualization is. In virtualization, you have a single software with the name of something we generally use, that is called VMware. Okay, for showing any kind of a demonstration. So what we generally do is that in this particular VMware, we do is that we have an operating system in place, right? Okay, and what I kind of try, show in my other seminars or courses, I show you that there is a kind of an exploit is present there in the Windows XP, and you want to compromise that particular Windows XP, right? And you are in your Linux. So you are installing this particular Linux as well as this with XP in a single software. That's it. All you need for virtualization is a single software. So how, if you go to the background, how the distribution is going to take place? So what is, like, for example, whatever your hardware configuration is, right? Whatever your hardware configuration is, what you can do is that, like, for example, this is your VMware. Okay, that particular VMware I'm talking about, and it will be, what you'll be doing is that upon it you will be developing your operating system. So this will be your operating system first, this will be your operating system second, whichever operating system you want. Multiple operating system you can install, multiple, right? I have installed 23 operating system inside this VMware, no issue with it, right? And what it will do, it will be lying upon something with your hardware of your particular PC. Like, for example, this particular machine is having 8 GB of RAM. Okay, this particular PC. So what it will be doing is that this VMware would be definitely, you will be installing this particular VMware over this particular laptop. And yeah, depending upon your hardware configuration, and you at least you need an 8 GB of it, right? Many of if you go through a multiple articles, it will be telling you that you need 4 GB or 2 GB for this VMware, but I would suggest that at least go for 8 GB. Okay, why? Because see, 8 GB of hardware configuration you have, 8 GB of RAM you have, and this VMware, what it will be doing is that it will be dividing that 8 GB into two parts. First, for this 4 GB for this operating system to work, and then another 4 GB for this operating system to work, right? This is, it will be high, dividing it. This is how it will be getting it. At least you should, how many cores you need? At least I would say i5, right? That's what my suggestion would be, right? Otherwise, you will be it would be quite lagging or hanging in between, right? Or you may face some kind of issue. So I would recommend at least 5 i5, okay, or above generation, or at least 8 GB of RAM, DDR4, or if it's DDR5, even better, right? So this is called your virtualization, right? Now let's topic is the hypervisor. So we have talked about the virtualization is kind of creating the virtual, you know, virtual operating system, right? Inside it, okay, inside a machine, inside a software, we are creating, right? How network got virtualized from your machine, okay, from your particular connection, from your particular machine, your particular laptop, he will be getting the connection, okay. This is how it gets. So okay, so now this is your types of hypervisor we are getting. Hypervisor is that particular software, you know, which is going to act, which is going to help you out in this particular thing of virtualization. So why hypervisor? See, okay, I'm going to explain you what an hypervisor is. Hypervisor is the software through which you are able to create these virtual machines, right? See, this is how it is. So there is hypervisor first and there is hypervisor second. So first I'm going to explain you what is an hypervisor second, right? You will be quite easily get it, you will able to relate it to it, right? What is hypervisor second? So this is some third, there are three things you need to understand. First is your hardware, okay, your laptop or a PC, whatever the hardware configuration would be. Then there is operating system above it, definitely some kind of operating system you have installed over it. And then there it would be hypervisor. Hypervisor is a software, okay, like any other software, like we have VLC media player for watching movies, watching web series, right? It is kind of software we have. Like we have, different, like we have PowerPoint presentation, we have, Notepad, we have Google Chrome, right? We have multiple software in place for doing different kind of things. Hypervisor is also a kind of an software which we install over this operating system, okay. And what it does is that what's the right, so it's an so how would it help us, right? What's the use of this hypervisor? What is the use of this particular software? So what is happening here is that we have two, you know operating systems in place. These are two different operating systems that you're seeing, this one as well as this one. There are two operating system in place, okay, this one as well as this one. So what is happening is that a hypervisor lets you install multiple operating system. This particular operating, see, we are saying here a box with an app and OS. This one you can say it's Windows 7. At the same time, this another one is called your Kali Linux. Okay, this is another operating system. So hypervisor, what it does is that it lets you have or install two operating system at a single time. So these two operating systems are installed in the hypervisor installed in the operating system, and operating system install, over the hardware, right? And whatever the hardware configuration you would be having, like a 5 GB or 10 GB of RAM or i5 or i7 or i9 or whatever generation you have, that would be, this hypervisor would be breaking it down and dividing particular that thing in this, okay, that's it, right? That's for sure. So that's the role of the hypervisor. It breaks down your, you know whatever the configuration of your hardware is, and it lets you install multiple operating system which you can use, right? And you can play with those multiple operating systems, okay. And your based, that particular base operating system remains intact. So what is the thing is that if you are using this hypervisor, the software, anything you will be doing it, like many people, what they do, they want to study the ransomware, they want to study the malware, different kind of viruses. So what they do is that they kind of, install a kind of a virus or malware by intentionally in order to understand its behavior, its pattern, how it works, what kind of file does it affect, all those kind of things. So they will be doing it, they will be first installing a hypervisor, and then they will be installing that particular software in, that particular virus inside the hypervisor, okay. So definitely what it does is that the virus would not be able to escape the hypervisor, right? And it will not leak out to your base operating system. Like the base operating system for my particular this is Windows 10. So whatever virus I would be using, or ransomware I would be using, it will not be leaking out of the hypervisor, and my system is protected, and I'm easily able to read and calculate and analyze that particular virus, right? And I can create a report, right? That's the thing. Okay, so we have, so this is your second hypervisor. Okay, this is your second hypervisor, the normal hypervisor which we can use. There is another kind of an hypervisor which is called hypervisor first. Okay, which is also called bare metal hypervisor. Okay, and this is particularly used at the enterprise level. At an organization level, it is quietly used, not for personal use, but for an organization, it will be used. So what difference that you see between hypervisor first and hypervisor second? The difference is, first difference is that of the operating system. This hypervisor first does not need an operating system. The question arises why? Why do not this hypervisor needed it, right? But first we need to understand, what if there is an operating system, what kind of problem that could occur. So okay, so let's go back to hypervisor 2 once again, and we have in here an operating system, right? And definitely over the operating system you have installed hypervisor, and inside the hypervisor you have multiple operating system in place. Okay, now let's suppose there is some kind of a ransomware attack, there is some kind of virus attack or any other kind of attack over this operating system, right? There is some kind of an attack going on over this system. So what will happen? This operating system, due to anything, this operating system failed, right? And it's not able to work properly, and this operating system gets corrupted, right? It's not able to work properly, it's get corrupted. So what is going to happen here is this if this operating system fails to open or work or boot up, so definitely this hypervisor would also collapse with it, right? And same is this will also collapse with it. So the operating system will collapse, the hypervisor would collapse, as well as the operating system over it, and all the setting and all the content that you have stored in that particular respective operating system would also collapse. So that's not the thing that we need in an organization. So what we did was that we came up with a solution with the thing which is called hypervisor one, which is specifically designed for the organization, right? This is the thing. So here what we did is that we remove the operating system. So we have here the hardware, okay, hardware configuration, i5, i6, sorry, i5, i7, i9, whatever generation you want, right? Or uh, you know graphic card 8 GB, 9 GB, anything, right? That hardware configuration you have. Then you have above it is the hypervisor. Okay, above it is the hypervisor, and above it you have the operating system. Okay, so definitely you do not have the operating system. So that is, the possibility that the operating system would collapse and everything would collapse, will collapse with it. It's gone, right? That's the thing. So that's an advantage, that's a benefit that you can get in this particular hypervisor first. Okay, and another benefit, another very, very critical benefit that you will get in hypervisor first, which is you will not get in hypervisor 2, is that hypervisor first is, it's provides something which is called the clustering, right? Something which is called the name of clustering. So what is a clustering? In clustering, what it does do is that, you know which is also called the VM motion as well, clustering and the VM motion. So what it does is that if something happens, right, if there is any some kind of a failure, right, if there is some kind of failure, what you can do is that you can move this operating systems which are working, which you have installed in this particular operating system. What you can do is that you can, in a running state, you can transport them to an another hypervisor. That's the thing, right? You can take this operating systems, and what you can do is that you can install, you can install this or take this into another, right? And you can install it there. That's the thing you will be getting at the type of hypervisor. Okay, this is the advantage we have over the type of, type of one hypervisor. Clustering is a process where what you will do is that, if like in is a process which is only or kind of a feature which is available in type 1 hypervisor. What happens in the clustering is that, let's say there is some kind of a hardware failure is there, or you think that, okay, some kind of hardware failure is going to happen. What you can do, or the hypervisor is not working properly, definitely some kind of operating system you have already installed. Like in the example, you are seeing two operating system installed over the hypervisor. What you will do is that you will take both the hypervisor, and in the running stage, okay, you will be transporting them to another hypervisor of different machine, right? That's kind of a feature which is present in type 1 hypervisor. This kind of thing with the hypervisor first as well as in the hypervisor second, right? And definitely the features which are present in the hypervisor first, it's kind of shows that it is completely, dedicated for the organization level, and definitely it's an expensive as well, right? That's the thing. So this is the architecture that you're seeing right in front of your screen, is a architecture of the container as well as I have shown of the virtual machines, right? So container, is a lightweight, standalone and executable software package that includes everything needed to run an application, right? Including code, libraries, systems, tools, and runtime, right? So what it does that the containers provide a standardized and consistent way to package, distribute, and run software across multiple different computing networks, including development, testing, and production environment. So what really happens in the container is that it's just like the VMware. Some of the Okay, yeah. See, let's see this particular architecture, and you will be easily able to understand what is the container and how it looks like, right? So first of all, the light container is a lightweight standalone executable of software package that includes everything you need to run an application. Okay, that it's what's for. So what happens in the container part? In the container part, see, everything it's depending, the base is the infrastructure, same as with the virtual machine. Okay, whether it's hypervisor 1 or hypervisor 2, whatever it is, we are not going to care about it. But at the end, in the virtual machine, the infrastructure is just the same. The hardware configuration same is here in the container as well, the hardware configuration. Okay, now, above this hardware configuration, we have something with the operating system. And the virtual machine, we are also having the operating system as well, right? Now, what really happens in this particular thing is that now we have two above the operating system. In the virtualization, we have hypervisor, which I have explained you, hypervisor 1 and hypervisor 2, right? We have this kind of thing. But in the cloud, this container, we do not have any kind of an hypervisor. We need something which is called the Docker engine, right? A Docker, which kind of helps you in deploying this container. That is your Docker, okay? So that is the kind of thing which will be available. And over that, you can deploy multiple applications. You can deploy application A, application B, application C, and application D, right? This kind of application you can deploy over the Docker engine, right? And this is your hypervisor. So what is here happening here is that in the hypervisor, if you go over the VMware, in the hypervisor, you will be seeing VMware one type of operating system, and another type of operating system is present there. Okay, two type of different operating system is present there, but there are guest operating system as well. But in the container, you are not going to see any guest operating system. You are going to see an operating system. That's it. And in that operating system, definitely a Docker engine would be installed. Fine. And over that, the application which you want to run, you will be needing it, right? So that's why it's in the definition it is written, containers is a lightweight, standalone and executable software package that includes everything to run an application, right? Including code, libraries, systems, tools, runtime, everything. Okay. So this is the basic overview about the containers, VMware, and the hypervisor, right? Okay, so now the question arises, what is a Docker? See, a Docker is a platform for developing, packaging, and distributing running application in the container. So what are the information, or what are the things you want inside the container? Kind of developer helps you in, sorry, Dockers help you in creating that particular container. So what I mean is that what you will do is you need a Docker, and this particular Docker will helps you in creating the containers, right? And what you can do is that inside this container, you can run the applications inside this container. So Docker really helps you in developing, or you can say creating the containers, right? Okay, that's the thing. And inside the container, what you can do is that you can run an application, all those kind of things, right? this is in very short and layman's language, this is the container. Sorry, this is the Docker. Okay, and Docker helps you in creating the container, right? Now let's talk about different type of cloud service providers. In the market, we are having multiple cloud service provider, okay, which are present. So what we are going to do is that we are going to talk about them each one by one, right? That's the thing. So now we are going to talk about cloud service provider. So the first kind of cloud service provider or the vendor we have, which is called the AWS by the Amazon, right? So as the definition says, AWS stands for Amazon Web Service, which is a cloud computing platform that provides wide range of services to help customer build, deploy, and manage application services in the cloud, right? So, you know, first of all, you need to remember this thing is that this AWS is provided by the Amazon. Okay, the parent organization which is responsible for this AWS is the Amazon, right? So now what is going to happen here is this, that this particular AWS is the leading provider, okay, and as well as the pioneer. So it started in 2006, right? The AWS, it was one of the first organization that started the service of cloud computing, and it was started in 2006. And the thing about this AWS is that from 2006 it is the leading provider, right? It still holds 50 to 60% of the market, right, till date. Definitely new players have entered the market, but still AWS hold 50 to 60% of the global market of the cloud, right? This is the thing about the AWS. And definitely, they at least previous year in 2022, they have a revenue of 20 billion the from AWS, right? So that's a huge thing. And it shows that as the penetration of internet is increasing, right? And it is reaching to the rural part of the India. So what is happening is that more and more people are using services, and organizations are shifting towards the cloud platform, right? So definitely it's a big thing. So this AWS is a leading, right, and he is a leader in the cloud and still hold 50 to 60% of the market. Now let's go to the next part, which is called next provider, which is your Azure. So Azure, right, is a cloud computing platform provided by the Microsoft. Like the AWS, right, was provided by the Amazon. Azure is provided by the Microsoft, right? Remember this thing. And definitely recently there was a news like there's a platform with the name GPT. Okay. So what was happening is that GPT. So Microsoft announced that they will be, in that particular OpenAI, the organization which is, is going to deal with this is an organization with the name of OpenAI, okay, which is kind of an organization which handles this GPT, and Amazon and Microsoft has said that they were going to invest 10 billion into this, OpenAI and the GPT part. It's a kind of an artificial intelligence which really helps you in, if you are asking for any kind of a thing, it really helps you in that. Okay. And it, if you ask any kind of a question or say to, create an essay or an article, it will be providing you with it. Right. So definitely it will be provided definitely like that, because Microsoft is the organization which is going to, you know, uh, invest 10 billion in the OpenAI, and definitely this feature, particularly related to the GPT, is going to come in the Azure part as well. So this is the thing. So right, multiple features or multiple services are going to come in the Azure, which is features, which will be having AI. features. So what you need to do is that you will be just typing, or the Microsoft is going to invest in the OpenAI, and definitely this GPT, this artificial intelligence thing presence is also going to come in the Azure part as well. So you will be doing a lot of things with this Azure part, right? Okay. So now the second kind of provider is your GCP, right? And definitely GCP stands for Google Cloud Platform, and it has been provided by the Google, right? So if I tell you who is a leading, vendor, the first is AWS, right? The first is your AWS. The second is your Azure, right? The second is your Azure, and the third is your GCP, right? These three are the leading vendors, right? There are multiple. There is Alibaba, there is Oracle, all those things are there. But we are going to, in this particular session, we are only going to discuss about AWS, Azure, and GCP. There are multiple, like Oracle is also there, right? Alibaba is also there, right? Multiple other vendors are also present there. So this GCP is provided by the Google, right? So as it's written here, GCP offers a wide range of cloud services that allow customer to build, deploy, and manage application and services in the cloud, right? So definitely GCP provides several computer services like compute engine, app engine, Kubernetes engine, right? All these type of things the GCP provides. Okay, so many of the my students really ask me that, so which one is the best, whether AWS is best, Azure is best, or the GCP is best? Which one of the cloud provider, this out of these three leaders, which one is the best, if the ultimate one, right? Definitely my organization cannot work upon the three, because it would be you know it would be definitely costing a lot using all the three cloud providers. So we only want to use one. What you would recommend? The answer is that you should not, no cloud provider is perfect. Neither the AWS is perfect, neither the Azure or the GCP. This kind of thing, this particular thing you need to keep in mind when you are selecting for yourself as well as for your organization any kind of cloud platform, right? Dep- so how would you select? So it completely depends upon your requirement. It's completely depends upon your requirement, which kind of things you need, right? Upon what kind of requirement you are having, based upon that you are going to have, right? You're going to select it. So if your requirement suits AWS, go with it. If your requirement suits Azure, go with that. Or if your requirement suits GCP, go with that, right? Based upon your requirement, you are going to choose your this cloud provider, right? Now let's talk about type of services which are provided by the cloud, right? So what are the services which are provided by the cloud? So here I'm going to discuss about type of services which are provided specifically by the AWS, right? So the first services which is provided by the cloud is like the compute services. Multiple type of services are present there. You know, uh, in Azure, on AWS only, more than 300 services are present. Okay. So what is happening here is this: in the Azure, sorry, in the AWS, more than 300 services are present. So he does not need to learn about each and every out of this 300. He does not need to learn every bit of it. What you will do is that, what we mostly do is that, based upon services, what kind of thing it will be performing, we break down the services, right? Some of the services would be used for data, for databases. Some of the services for use for AI and machine learning. Some of the services would be for computing services, right? All these kind of thing we kind of break down. So first is the compute services. Why we are talking specifically in the context of AWS, right? This is it. Okay. So let's go. So compute services. So compute services in AWS, see, it refers to the services that allow customer to run their application and workload in the cloud, right? So the AWS provides a variety of computer services to meet different need and requirement, including Amazon EC2, right? which is also called Amazon Elastic Cloud. It's a very famous services, right? In the compute services, this EC2 is a very famous, and this is a kind of a service which is present in the AWS from the beginning, right? And a very crucial one. So why I'm saying it's very crucial, this particular service, Amazon Elastic Compute Cloud EC2. Why? Because it really helps you in deploying the server, right? In the language of AWS, we call them instant. The server in the AWS are called the instant, right? That's it. Just a fancy name, nothing else. Okay, no differences there. That's it. So if you want to deploy a server in the AWS, what you will be needing this something service which is called the EC2. Through with the help of the service, the EC2 Elastic Compute Cloud, what you are going to do is that you are going to deploy a server, okay, and you have a control over the operating system of the server. You have the control over the hardware configuration of the server. Definitely, what is the hardware configuration, whether the server that you are going to create, how much of a core of the CPU should be there, how much is the RAM should be there, what should be the graphic card would be, all those kind of things you are going to be using. Definitely, whatever things you will be using, you are going to be charged for that. Higher the configuration, you know uh, definitely bigger the charge would be, and you have to pay for that. But again, if you are ready to pay for it, no problem with it. You will see multiple hardware configuration and you can choose any. And same with the operating system, you can choose the operating system of this particular respective server as well. What is the what would be the operating system? So if, for example, if this is the server, let's say server A, okay, so you can choose the operating system, whatever the operating system would be, the like Windows, XP, okay, Windows or Linux, right, or iOS, whichever operating system you want, you can choose for this respective server, as well as you can choose the hardware configuration. This is only possible through this particular service, which is named Amazon Elastic Compute Cloud, EC2, right? It's kind of providing you complete control over how you are deploying it, where you are deploying it, and all those kind of things. You can even control where you are going to deploy this, because there are multiple regions which are present in the AWS, which I will be showing you tomorrow, how the AWS architecture really looks like, right? So multiple regions are present there, and you can control where you want to deploy this particular server. So there would be a region with the name Singapore. There would be a region with the name of, you know, North Virginia, like Tokyo. So based upon your client requirement, based upon your business requirement, or based upon your particular requirement, you can deploy the server in that specific region. Okay, that is so that all of these powers really comes from one type of service, which is called Amazon Elastic Compute Cloud. It's kind of, see here it is written, it's a web service that provide resizable computing capacity in the cloud. It really helps you in deploying servers in the cloud, right? You can create server, you can delete server, you can stop server, all of the, and multiple other things are there. You can do and play with this thing which is called Elastic Compute Cloud, right? Multiple things are there which you can play through it, right? That is the Elastic Compute Cloud. Now let's, in the compute services, we are going to another service which is called AWS Elastic Beanstalk, right? So in Elastic Beanstalk, what really happens is that in Elastic Beanstalk, yesterday I told you about PaaS, platform as a service, right? So in the plans, I told you that there are multiple in a in infrastructure. There are multiple things there. There is network, there is storage, there is server. All of these kind of things are there. But in the PaaS model, we only worry about two things: application and the code. So, and I told you an example that this Elastic Beanstalk is the example of the PaaS model. Why? Because you, if you are using Elastic Beanstalk, you does not need to worry about anything else. You does not need to worry about the storage. You does not need to worry about the network. You does not need to worry about, anything. You does not need to worry about anything. In the AWS Elastic Beanstalk, what really happens is that you only focus upon your code. That's it. You only focus upon your code as well as upon your application. The rest of the thing, like the storage, the network, right, the services, the operating system, if there is any kind of a vulnerability which is present in the operating system, okay, the patching of the uh, patching of the uh, operating system, okay, if there's any kind of a bug, all of these kind of things is the headache of the cloud service provider. It's not your particular headache, it's the headache of the cloud provider, right? That in the Elastic Beanstalk we only care about the code, right, and the application. That's it, right? That's the example. That's why it was the example of the PaaS, platform as a service model. Okay, that's what it is. Okay, right. Now there is a third service in the cloud compute service which is called AWS Lambda. Okay, so this is the kind of a logo of it, Lambda. You will be seeing it, right? Yeah, this is how it looks like. Now in AWS Lambda, what really happens is that it is a kind of a service where what you do, the piece of a code, right? This is a kind of a code or a service which will only execute when there is a trigger, right? There would be a trigger, and that particular trigger would only work, you know, when that particular things happens, that particular there is a trigger, then only that particular piece of code or service would, run, and not other than that, right? For example, like there is a smoke detector, okay, smoke detector in your house or in your particular office, right? So it's keep there, it's like your trigger, okay, it's kind of analyzing and keep on analyzing if there is any kind of fire or not. The moment that particular smoke sensor detects that there is a fire, it's kind of trigger, so it's in response, it send a message to all those water pipe that starts sprinkling water all over the this office, right? That's what starts sending, right? That's what happens in AWS Lambda. You send a piece of a code or services there, and there's a trigger attached to it. The moment there is a trigger happens, the service starts to run. Okay, that what's happened in AWS Lambda. Fine. Okay, now let's move back. Now let's move ahead to our next service, which is called the AWS batch, right? In the compute cloud only, in the compute services, we have another one which is called AWS batch, and another one is called the Amazon Lightning. So in AWS batch service, what happens? This is fully managed service that allows customer to run batch computing workload on AWS cloud, right? And there's another which is called Amazon Lightning. So this is an easy to use virtual private server, VPS server that provides simple use. So if you are not much familiar with AWS platform, I would request you that you start your journey with this particular service, Amazon Lightning. It is definitely graphic oriented, right? Very simple, not much of a complication is there. Very simple, right? And just within 2-3 clicks, and easily you can deploy a server. So not many, you know, variety or options are there. Only 2-3 options are there, and it's very simple. Okay, a lot of graphical thing is there, so it's quite easy for you to understand it as well as deploy, right? That is the power of Amazon Lightning. Okay, we talk about something in the cloud about storage services. So we have talked about compute services. Now we are going to talk about the storage services which are present. So storage service in AWS refers to the services that allows customers to store and manage their data in the cloud. So whatever the information that you want to store, it is kind of stored in this particular service, right? In this particular service. Okay. So AWS provides a variety of services to meet your different need requirement. The first is Amazon Simple Storage Service, which is also called as S3. Right? Remember this thing, S3. It's a very important service. Same as EC2 was very important service in the context of creating a instance or a server. same is the S3, right? Okay. So S3, so it is, it is a scalable object service. Object means files and folder. That's it, right? Again, again another fancy name by the AWS, like instance. Sorry, the server were called the instance, right? The files and folders are called the object. That's it. Nothing else. No difference in that. Okay, that's it. So in this thing, so it is, yeah, it is scalable object storage service, right? It allows customers to store and retrieve any amount of data from anywhere in the web. So what you can do is that first in the S3, what you would do is that you create a bucket. Okay. In the next session, I will be showing that as well to you all guys, that how the bucket looks like. But you have to think like it's a bucket which will be created, or a kind of a drive. That in your PC, definitely you have a drive, and inside the drive you have multiple folders. So definitely what you do is that first you create a drive, which is also called your bucket, right? Inside that particular drive, what you do is that you create folders, files, and all those kind of things, the object. Okay, and definitely the size is unlimited information you can keep inside a bucket. But remember this thing guys, you have to pay for that. More information, that the more information that you keep inside a bucket, the more charges there would be, and right, so keep that particular thing in mind. Okay, that's your AWS S3, and from anywhere in the world you can retrieve it, right? That's the thing, you can access the information. It's kind of a Google Drive, but with better security and better function. And definitely this particular S3 is with the objective of keeping, fulfilling the requirement of an organization. So it's kind of a Google Drive for the organization with better security and better control over the location and better control over the data, right? That is your Amazon S3. Now there's another service which is called Elastic Block Store. Again, very fancy word, Elastic Block Store. It's EBS, Elastic Block Store. You can compare it with your hard disk or your pen drive, whichever hard disk, your HDD or SSD, or and your pen drive, right? Hard disk or your pen drive. You can compare it with that, right? Okay. So remember that particular thing. So again, this is a block storage service that provides persistence block level storage volume for the use with the Amazon EC2 instance. So what you can do is that anything, and it is kind of attached to a server, right? This particular EBS, and any information that you will be, generating or processing in the server, it is kind of stored in the EBS. Okay, that's the thing. And what you can do, there are multiple properties of this EBS. What you can also do is that you can attach this EBS to any server, right? You can detach them with some server. Okay, let me draw it here for you to easily understand. Anything happening in this particular server, it is being stored in this particular volume. As I told you, this particular EBS is kind of your storage, right? So it's storing there. And there is another server with a server name B. And what will happen here is that, like for example, A has done its task and it's storing its information in this particular EBS, then it will be going to this B and it will be attaching with it, right? That's it. So this is how you can share your information as well. But you have to keep this thing in mind. In EBS, we store our information. It's kind of, if you want to recall, remember it, it is kind of a hard disk as well as your pen drive. Okay, this is what the EBS is all about, right? Then we have something with the name of AWS Snowball family, right? So this is, collection of physical devices and services that allows customers to transfer large amount of data into and out of the cloud, into the AWS cloud, right? So, okay, just give me a minute. See guys, this is your Snowball in the AWS context, right? This is how it looks like, right? This is the image of it, right? So what happens in this particularly, right? Snowball is petabyte scale data transfer service that enables customers to transfer large amount of data in and out of the AWS cloud. It really helps you in transferring a lot of information in and out of the system. So for example, like in your organization you are having like 10 GB, or you can say 10 TB of information, okay, or even more than that. Let's see, let's for this particular example, let's say an example of 10 TB. And definitely, if you are creating the 10 TB of a data in a day in your particular system, and then for the, for a backup, you are storing that particular thing in a cloud, right? So that at any kind of a disaster, you could be able to recover it or share that particular thing with your colleagues or with your client, right? 10 TB of a data. So definitely think how much time would it take from your particular respective PC to down, or you can say up, upload that particular thing over the cloud, whether in the AWS, 10 TB. 10 TB of data you have to upload from your particular device machine to the cloud. Definitely lot of time it will take, and definitely as the size of the data would increase, so would the time duration would it take more, right? The time duration will also increase for it, right? That's it, 10 TB. So to resolve this kind of an issue, what the AWS come with, it came with something which is called the AWS Snowball. What really happens in the AWS Snowball? Let me tell you. So this is particularly your PC or a server which is having 10 TB of data. What will happen here is that AWS, you will be calling the AWS. AWS will be sending you the Snowball. This particular device you are seeing right now in front of you is AWS Snowball. This you will be seeing that you will be keeping in your particular desk. It will be through cables attaching to your particular server, and it will be, you know with high speed, it will be downloading all the information inside itself, okay. And inside itself it will be downloading within few minutes. It will be completely downloading it, right? It's very fast. Then what will be doing that after the 10 TB of data has been downloaded over this particular Snowball, then you will be detaching the Snowball, and then to save container, definitely it will be having this 10 TB of data, and it will be going there, and then it will be detached, attaching it to the server in the AWS or the cloud, and it will be uploading it, right? That's how the Snowball works. It's kind of a middleman in between, right? And definitely it makes the process much faster. And definitely what you can do is that you can ask the AWS for more than one. If you think that, okay, I want 5 Snowballs, this particular devices which is provided by manufactured and maintained by AWS, I will be asking them, and they will be providing. Definitely there would be some charge for that as well, but your job would be done, definitely, for sure. Your data transfer would be done, no problem with that, okay. That's it. That is what the AWS Snowball is. A very interesting, services which is provided by the AWS, okay. So this is how the Snowball, AWS Snowball looks like, right? So now, guys, let's move to our next topic, which is database services, right? Now let's talk about data services. So we have talked about clouds, compute services. We have talked about, storage services. Now let's talk about database services, right? So database services in AWS refers to the services that allows customer to manage their, relational or non-relational database in the cloud. So AWS provides a variety of database services to meet different need and requirement, right? Let's say, so what are the services present in the AWS which deals with the databases? The first and the famous one is Amazon Relational Database Service, which is also called as your RDS. So this is the managed database service that make it easy to set up, operate, and scale to a relational database in the cloud. So the RDS, Relational Database Service, supports popular database engines such as MySQL, PostgreSQL, and Oracle, or multiple others, right? That's what it does. Now the second one is Amazon DynamoDB. Okay, this is another kind of a service which is present in your database service. So Amazon DynamoDB, what it does, it is a full-fledged NoSQL database service that kind of provide you with a fast and a predictable performance and seamless scalability, right? That is the power of this DynamoDB. Then there is another third one which is provided by the Amazon, which is called Amazon Document DB, right? This is kind of by the Amazon. So this is full managed computer document database service that provide MongoDB compatible database instance. Okay. Now let's talk about networking services. So in the networking service in AWS, right, it refers to the services that allow customer to securely connect their resources and workload in the cloud. So AWS, what it does is that AWS kind of provide a variety of networking services to meet different need and requirement, right? That is your networking service. Okay, so multiple services are present in the AWS which deals with the networking thing, like the Amazon Virtual Private Cloud, which is deal with the VPC. There is AWS Direct Connect. So what happens in the VPC? Let me tell you just an overview about the VPC part. So VPC, right? It's kind of a logical isolation of virtual network. So what we're doing is that inside the AWS infrastructure, the AWS kind of give us the capacity to create our own infrastructure inside the AWS infrastructure, right? That's the thing which we see, which is called the VPC. It's a very, very complex topic, but I'm just giving you an overview about it. So what happens in this particular VPC is that it's kind of an isolated virtual network inside that particular AWS, right? Whatever you do, wherever you can do anything, you can create your own server, right? You can attach them together, you can host any web server there, and connect to the rest of the world, and any person sitting over the internet can come and access this particular thing. So all these kind of things are there, right? So this is how the VPC is. So this is kind of also service which is provided by the AWS, and it comes under the networking service. Then there is something which is called AWS Direct Connect, right? So this is a dedicated network connection that allows customers to establish a dedicated network connection from on-premises data center to the AWS, right? This is your AWS Direct Connect. After that, we have some services with the name of Elastic Load Balancing. It's kind of a load balancer, right? That's what it do. It's kind of load balancer. So this service that automatically distribute incoming traffic into multiple target, right? So it's kind of a load balancer. So it's kind of distributes the traffic. So if any kind of a traffic is there, what this particular load balancer would be doing is that it will be distributing the upcoming traffic into multiple parts. Let's say example that this is a traffic which is coming, and it's a huge traffic which is coming, and there is a load balancer in between. So what, and there are two servers you have placed, server number 1 and server number 2. So what will happen here is that this particular elastic load balancer, what it's doing is that the moment traffic reaches to this particular load balancer, it will be distributed. First it will be going to this particular server 1, and then server 2 and 3, and this again to this 1, and then second. That, so this way it will be keep on distributing equally the coming traffic or the users in the server number 1 and 2, right? This is what elastic load balancing or ELB comes, right? So it's here it is written, this is service that automatically distribute incoming traffic across multiple like a EC2 instance, containers and IP address, all those kind of things, right? So it's kind of distribute your traffic. Then there in the networking services, we have another one which is called Amazon Route 53, right? It's just your DNS, if you, right? It's your DNS. Right? So this is highly available in scalable cloud domain name system, right? So it is your DNS of your AWS provided by the AWS, right? Service that translate domain name into IP address. So this is a job of the DNS. If you are not familiar with the job of the DNS, what the DNS does is that it tries to convert your domain name to your IP address, okay, and it kind of convert your IP address to your domain name. Remember them, right? For example, when you type google.com, so computer does not understand what's a google.com, right? So what it will do is that it will be figuring out what's an IP address, and then it will be going there, right? So what DNS does is that DNS converts your this particular domain name into IP address and IP address into the domain name, right? This is what it does. And the DNS in the AWS is called Amazon Route 53. Okay, this is what it is. Now, there are another service in the networking, which is the Amazon VPC peering. So this is a service, that allows customers to connect VPC within the same AWS net account, or you can say across different AWS accounts, right? So it's kind of service that, allows to connect your particular VPC within the same account or with different AWS accounts, right? That is called Amazon VPC peering. This is also a very important service which is present in the networking, right? Okay, so the first is Amazon Kinesis, right? So what is Amazon Kinesis? So it is a platform for streaming data on AWS that allows customers to collect, process, and analyze data in real time, right? So it helps you in collecting the data all of your services in real time, right? Of collecting, processing, and analyzing the data in real time. Okay, that's what the Amazon Kinesis is. Then there is something which is called Amazon EMR. It is a full managed, right, Hadoop and Spark service that allows customers to run big data analysis framework on AWS. So it's kind of, help you in analyzing the data, right? In short, Amazon ECR, what it does is that it really helps you in analyzing the data, right? That's what the Amazon ECR does. Now let's make, talk about more machine learning services. Then we have, which is called Amazon Athena, right? So this is an interactive query service that allows, to customers to analyze data in an S3 using standard SQL, right? This is an Athena. And then we have something which is called Amazon Redshift. So this is a full managed data, this is full managed data warehouse service that's kind of provide fast query performance using standard SQL, okay? Right? So this is kind of a full managed database warehouse service that kind of provide you a fast performance, right? Using a standard SQL, all those kind of thing, right? That's called a Redshift. Then we have something which is called Amazon Safe SageMaker. So this is the full managed service that provides developer and the data scientists with the ability to build, train, and deploy machine learning models quickly and easily, right? Like a GPT. Right? It is also kind of a model there. Okay, with any kind of a task you will be providing him, it will be responding with something. So you can also use Amazon SageMaker to fully manage services that kind of provide that ability to the developers as well the scientists to train those kind of models, right, and to build and deploy those kind of models. Okay, so you can use this Amazon SageMaker for those kind of things as well. Now we have something which is very interesting, which is called Amazon Recognition, right? So it says that it is full managed compute vision service that provides developers with the ability to easily add image and video analyze to the application. So what you will do is that you can easily analyze any kind of an image. Okay, if there is any kind of a photo or there is a kind of a boy is running, so what it will do is that it will kind of analyze it and will tell you that there is in this particular image boy is running. What it can also scan through that image. If you have, for example, 5 to 6 people in that particular respective image, what could happen, it will be analyzing that particular thing. It will be, you will be asking that to identify a man or a woman, right, with this much, this character facial thing. It will be analyzing that particular picture, and based upon the analysis it will be providing with the results, right? So you can say it really helps you in analyzing the image and the video part, right? It really helps you if you are in a, if you are working in an organization which kind of filter out any kind of a content which is very violent or where very much of violence is there. So what it will do in that, you can set it to analyze any kind of a footage or a video which deals with, definitely it is kind of a using a lot of an AI and algorithm, all those kind of thing. But what is happening here is that it is, and it will analyze all the images that you will be providing it, that is there is any kind of a blood, violence, or a murder or a crime is there. So it will be analyzing that, and it will be sending you, providing you with a report. Okay, that what happens. And and definitely you can connect it with other kinds of services, and in those services you can set the setting that when this particular condition is met, when this particular Amazon recognition identify any kind of an image, okay, that it says that it's harmful, what you will do, you kind of say to that particular server XYZ that delete it. Okay, that's the thing. What happens in Amazon recognition? It's a very, very important thing. Okay, so that's the thing. It really helps you in analyzing your particular respective image as well as particularly your video part, right? And definitely it provide you with the data related to that particular thing as well. Now let's talk about application integration services, right? So application integration services in AWS, refers to the services that allows customers to integrate their application, right, and their services in the cloud without any AWS or third-party services, right? So it's kind of help you in kind of integrating your particular respective application which you have building, right, and the services, right, with the AWS, right? That's the thing. So AWS provides a variety of application integration services, right? And based upon your particular requirement, your particular demand, you can use whatever you want. The first is Amazon Simple Notification Service, which is called SNS, right? Amazon Simple Notification Service, right? So this is what it is. It is a fully managed messaging service that allows customer to send and receive message from different application services and systems. So, right, this is what it does. And there's another thing which is called Amazon Simple Queue Service, which is also called as SQS, right? So this is a kind of a service which kind of fully manage messaging queuing services that allows customers to decouple and scale microservices distributed systems and services applications. Then in the application integrated services, we have another services with the name of AWS Steps function, right? So this is fully managed service that allows customer to coordinate with coordinate and manage multiple AWS services and microservices in the serverless workflows. Okay, really helps you in managing the services, right? Then there is AWS AppSync. This is fully managed service that allows the customer to build and deploy graphical QL API quickly and easily, right? So with this particular AWS AppSync, what you can do is that you can generate API, right, graphical API quickly and very easily. Then we have something which is called Amazon Event Bridge. So this is kind of again fully managed event service, right, that allows the customer to integrate the application and service using particular events, right? So through some events you can be easily able to integrate your application and your services. Then we have another service in this application integration catalog with the name of Amazon MQ. So this is managed message broker service for Apache Activate MQ that makes it easy to set up and operate message broker in the cloud, right? Now let's talk about cloud compute security. Okay, the next topic we are going to discuss is cloud compute security. So the cloud compute security, it's kind of a protection of your data, of your application, okay, and your infrastructure in the cloud environment. So as more organization move their application and their data, the importance of the cloud computing security increases to protect against cyber threats such as data breach, denial of service attack, and malware attack. So definitely there are multiple services in place which helps the particular person in resolving any kind of an issue or protecting the data. For example, there is an S3. Okay, S3 I have told you about the bucket, right? And yes, tomorrow I will be kind of showing you a hands-on practical with it. Yeah, so there is a kind of an S3 is present there. And what you will do is that in that particular S3, you will be inserting your particular database. And in that particular database, you have features for encryption. You can use encryption features and block and encrypt that particular file or object, right? And till the time you does not provide that proper authentication, it will not be decrypted. Okay, and this kind of feature is very good, right? So we have this thing which kind of provide security in this particular cloud. We have things which kind of provide security. There's another thing which is called the IAM, right, which also pumps up the security of your particular cloud. IAM stand for identity and access management. It really means that it kinds of identify, right? If you break it down, this IAM, identify and access management, okay, this is the identity and the access management. Identity and access management. So it means is that there is some kind of resources have present there, and what you are doing is that you are identifying and providing access. First you are identifying that particular respective person, and then identify providing him access. If you find that okay, this particular person is a genuine person, right, and you identifying that particular person, and then what you will be doing that providing access to that particular person. Okay, that's it. And you are managing that, you are completely managing that particular thing, is called the IAM. For example, in your particular respective organization, definitely there are, let's say, two people. Okay, let's say there are three people. Okay, out of these three people, there is one particular person who is not belongs to, who does not belongs to a particular organization. These first, second, and third are there. First and third belongs to your organization, and second does not. So how would you verify them, right? Definitely, this is particularly your entrance of your organization. How would you verify that which particular persons belong to the organization or not? For that, we have something which is called the IAM, identity and access management. Definitely some kind of resources would be there in organization. So what you will do, you will provide a kind of a security card to each and every particular person. So definitely this is a rogue person. He would not have any kind of this kind of thing he would not be having. So let's move it. And both these individuals would be having this respective card. So the first would be coming right at the gate, and he would be swiping his card. Definitely here would be some kind of a database of the organization. In the database, there would be identified that this particular XYZ is present, okay, with this name. This is his, this is the name of it, this is his facial recognition, all those kind of things would be there. It will be going to the database, it will be verifying, it will be identifying, and then based upon the identification, he will be authorized and the gate would be opened and this particular person would come, right? So first what we're doing, we are identifying that whether that particular person who really wants to come into our organization, whether that particular person is genuine or not, or whether it's any kind of a thief or a rogue person, right, or whether it's an ex-employee, right? So first what we do in this particular thing is first we identify it, right? Then we have something which is called access, right? Definitely first we identify that particular person is, genuine or not. Then what we do when we do something which is called the access, then definitely based upon our, policies, we will be providing him the access. Okay. But first you need to identify and to handle all to and manage to all these kind of things, right? When somebody visit your organization, when somebody is new to your organization, right, when there is any kind of a breach, accessing all these, managing all these kind of things comes under IAM, identity and access management, right? In this IAM, identity and access management, what you do is that it's also kind of security thing. And what it does is that it's kind of help. What you can do, you can create user, you can manage user, you can delete user. Okay, multiple things you can do with the IAM, right? So this comes under the cloud compute security. Multiple things like encryption comes under it, IAM also comes under it. IAM by itself is a very big topic, guys, right? Remember this thing. So IAM is a very big topic, right? So that's what it is.